Hey everybody, welcome to Never Too Old for YA. This week we'll be discussing chapters 11 through 15 of Karen Mcmanus' novel You'll Be the Death of Me. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Never Old for YA. This podcast is streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Facebook, and YouTube.
Hey, Kels.
Hey, Mel.
There's a lot to cover.
I think that's an understatement, actually.
Okay, so first question I have for you today. What did you think about the book now? Because you keep saying it's starting slow, it's developing slowly. Let me know what your thoughts are at this point.
Okay, finally it kicked into gear. And I'm so glad, because if it would have been another 5 chapters of everything just rolling along so freaking slowly and not really getting anywhere, and mostly just Cal and Ivy and Mateo all kind of in their own heads, I would have thrown this book to the ground. I'm not gonna read it anymore. But it got way better than that, so I'm happy.
Yes, I'm so happy. I was like, while I was reading it, I was like, oh yeah, Kelsey's gonna get into it now. She has to. This is too juicy. This is too good. I'm so glad. That makes me so happy.
Yeah, so it was pretty good. A lot happened, definitely. Should we start telling them what happened for those who aren't reading?
Sure, give them a synopsis of this section.
Okay. So it opens with Cal, Ivy, and Mateo back at the donut shop once again. And they're trying to kind of put their heads together and figure out what's going on with everything. Ivy took Mrs. Jameson's day planner from her purse while nobody was looking. And they're going through it to try to figure out what her schedule was like and stuff, and what she was doing day to day. See if there's anything they can put together from her side of things. What the connection might be to Boney Mahoney. And then while they're looking through the day planner, this greeting card spills out with Laura's favorite painting on the front of it. And the note inside says something along the lines of I love you so much, let's make this work, or something like that. And it's signed just with the initial D. And they're trying to figure out who that is, because the coach that she's engaged to, his first name is Tom, so it wasn't from him. But then anyway, they don't come up with anything there, but it's kind of weird they found that. And Cal is kind of fixated on it more than the other two are, because he's in a relationship with Laura. So he's kind of getting jealous over it. And then they find a roster of the whole senior class at Carlton High. And there's 3 names circled in red ink on that list.
So Mateo, Boney Mahoney, Charlie St. Clair are all on this list.
Yeah. And then so from there, they're trying to figure out a connection between the 3 of them. Mateo isn't friends with either of them. He doesn't really know why they're all on this list together. So yeah, they get in Kyle's car and they go back to Carlton from Boston, and they go to Ivy's house from there.
Hold on, let's backtrack. Hold on. Okay, so they find the planner, they're snooping. They find those 3 names. I want to go back to what you were saying about the note that just had from D. In the last section for last week that we read, Laura had told, when Laura and Cal were in the cafe or whatever, Laura said, oh, hold on, I have to go and call Dominic.
Okay, that makes so much more sense now. That totally went over my head. I didn't even pay attention to the guy's name.
Well, when it said D, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna wait all this time. And then it the scene flashed into my head and I was like, what was that guy's name that she said she was on the phone with? And I went back and I was like, his name's Dominic. D, hello. He's an artist. It's his studio. Of course he knows, her favorite painting. And of course he'd go out of the way because they're friends, and apparently they're really good friends. So that's one question off the list. And I don't really think it was that big of a deal. So I could have lived without that part. But yeah, so they do all that. In lighter
A big deal
news,
for Cal.
I mean,
A
yeah,
big deal for Cal.
it's a big deal for Cal, but is it a big deal with the rest of the section that we read?
No.
Exactly. I am enjoying though. There's a bit before they head back to oh, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So everyone's trying to figure out why the heck Mateo's name is with their two names. Like, they're trying to figure out why Mateo is on that list with Mahoney and Charlie. And I hate to say it, Kels, but you were right. We'll get to that though. Basically, Cal and Ivy are like, what's going on? Like, is there something you're not telling us? Like, why is your name on that list? And everyone's like looking at each other, and not even Mateo knows why he's on that list. Well, it seems like he doesn't know. But like you said, like they're not all connected, so it was kind of weird. So remember that phone that they picked up from the scene of the crime that was supposed to be Ivy's, but it wasn't?
Yeah.
While they're sitting there, they get a phone call from Charlie. And I didn't put two and two together, but in the very first section we read, the person that was texting Autumn was Charlie. Now Charlie's on this list. Now Charlie's calling this phone. Cal answers it, pretending to be Mahoney. And Charlie's like, man, I thought you were dead. Like, what's going on? Did you meet him? Did he show up? And everyone's like, who's he? Like, everyone's like, but that's where Lara should have been. Like, who's he? And so that's the part where I was like, okay, something big's gonna happen right now.
Yeah, I thought so too. That was like a really pivotal moment for me too, where it's like, okay, finally stuff's amping up.
Okay, so essentially after that, they decide to kind of look at their phones. Ivy gets this text message while Mateo's going to get something to eat. Because remember, this has happened in a course of like what, 4 or 5 hours? But they haven't eaten or anything. So Mateo's really hungry. He goes and grabs something to eat across the street because they were at the donut shop. And there was a McDonald's across the street. And I know it's like probably really stupid, but I love the fact that Mateo went to 7-Eleven across the parking lot to go and get her favorite candy.
Yeah, that was really cute. And then how he's like, he hands it to her and he's like, better late than never.
I want them to be in love so bad. I want them to have so much happiness together. But of course, it is a mystery. So from there, after Charlie had hung up the phone, Ivy's best friend Emily texts her and says, what's going on? Charlie just up and left, like just walked out of school. And immediately the gang's like, we need to go. I don't know if that was the smartest idea, is to chase someone down who knows this person who's been murdered, and he's on this like exclusive list that they're calling a hit list, and it's crazy. It just gets crazier from there. So go on.
So yeah, from there, they all get back in Cal's car and they drive back to Carlton, and they decide to go to Charlie's house to see if he's there since he left school. So they're figuring, okay, he probably went home. So they go to Charlie's house, and Mateo goes inside by himself. And when he gets there, the front door is open, and like the whole house is just trashed. All the kitchen cabinets are open. There's stuff all over the floor. Like all the couch cushions and stuff have been like, gone through, and like, they're all over the floor too. And then he goes to the basement and he gets into a fight with this guy who turns out to be Charlie. But he's thinking at first, before he realizes that it's Charlie, he's thinking that it's the person, whoever, like, trashed the house. But it ends up being Charlie that he's beating up. And well, they both get pretty beat up pretty bad. But so the two of them get in a fight, and then Ivy and Cal go into the house too, like to see, what the hell is going on. And they break up the fight, and Ivy like takes care of Mateo's like wound or whatever, like, cleans him up and stuff, puts a band-aid on it. And then while Ivy is tending to Mateo, Charlie and Cal are talking, and Charlie is actually super drunk because he freaked out when somebody, like, when whoever came in to like trash the house or whatever, like, got there and started throwing stuff around. He freaked out, so he got into his parents' vodka and just started drinking. He just decided that that's, I guess, how I'm gonna handle it, which is really weird to me, but whatever. So he's like super drunk, and he's telling Cal basically that him and Boney and Mateo's cousin Autumn have been selling Oxy together. So that seems to be the connection on the list, because Mateo is like the closest contact to Autumn. So that seems to be why Mateo is on the list. And they came into it because they found it under the floorboard of a shed at this abandoned house that they were at a party at. So they like got it and decided to sell it. But Charlie says that he doesn't keep any of the Oxy like in his house because it would be too easy to find or whatever, I guess. And Autumn doesn't keep any in her house either, according to Mateo. So anyway, the Oxy is at some other unspecified location. So they're figuring that whoever came and like trashed the house was probably looking for the drugs and didn't find them, obviously, because there's nothing there. So yeah, I'm curious now to see if we find out who trashed the house, and we know why. I'm curious to see if we know who, even though that probably isn't very relevant, maybe, but we'll see if it is or not.
It's still a big question, and I'd like to know the answer to that. All I have to say is you missed an opportunity to win some money.
How? We never bet on anything.
You should have bet me that she wasn't a prostitute and she was selling drugs, because that's the first thing you said. You would have been a $20 winner right here. I was wrong. I will admit. It still would have made for a good story though, so I'm not sorry about that. But the whole Oxy thing, I wasn't thinking it was that serious. But I guess. After they get back to Ivy's house, she's like cleaning Mateo up and making sure that like his head stopped bleeding and stuff, just tending to him. And they kiss. Aww.
Yeah, that was super cute. Kind of cheesy, but it was cute.
I was like, finally, geez, I could not take it anymore. I was so happy for them. But of course, it is still a mystery. So kind of all hell breaks loose because they're thinking like Mateo had no idea that this was going on. But then Cal finds out that Autumn's involved. So then he's like automatically like Mateo had to have known something. So Ivy's like, oh, heck no. Why didn't you tell us? He was like, I didn't think it was relevant. The whole fact that they all got involved in this, and why did Laura have this list, first of all? Second, who was he or who was Boney Mahoney going to see? because when Charlie answered the phone and thought it was Boney Mahoney, and he asked him, like, did you see him? Who is him? Is it Dominic? Is it Coach? Who is it? Like, I need to know this. I'm like, it's troubling me at night. Who is after these kids? So they're at the house, and basically, Boney Mahoney down, murdered. They attempted to do something in Charlie's house, and the kids are all like, okay, the kids, like, we're that much older, but I mean, they are kids, they're in high school. The kids are like, okay, let's probably head to Mateo's house because something could be going down right there. Thank God, like, Mateo's mom's not there. She's in the Bronx and Autumn's out working. I don't know where the book's going to go from here. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm lost. I can't make predictions this week, I don't think.
I can't either. But I kind of like that. I kind of like that we don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I kind of do too.
But if I were in this situation, I would be like, no, maybe we shouldn't. We have Drunky over here. Okay. I don't know what he's gonna do. He's at Ivy's house, like, just randomly. Ivy's got this big function to go to. Cal's dad's like presenting or whatever. And Mateo's all alone, supposedly has to go to work. It's just like one huge mess. Reading this book is giving me anxiety. I'm like, these kids have no time for anything. Like, they're all gonna be late. Like, it's freaking me out. But I think the next part of the book is definitely gonna be like how that all unfolds, because they're losing time. The day's starting to close in really fast.
Mhm.
And first of all, the biggest question is finally answered for me. Autumn is not a prostitute. She's selling drugs, which is no better, but you know. And now the biggest mystery is who is communicating with these kids, and where's the drugs? And is Ivy's mom gonna get there in time? People probably still suspect Ivy to be a murderer.
Yeah,
I
'cause
have no
that's
idea.
how the not the book, but that's how, like, the last chapter we left off on ends, is with Charlie telling Ivy, "Hey, they're talking about you on the news." Oh shoot, that is not gonna end well.
Like, she's still a murder, like, not a suspect, obviously, because they haven't like told her that or anything, but she's very well gonna be a person of interest. Because of the whole election. I have no idea what's gonna happen. I'm excited for what's gonna happen next. But yeah, not that many predictions.
Oh, but just another one thing I want to make note of, though, is that the award that Ivy's mom is getting is for Carlton Citizen of the Year or something like that. And it's for her research on the opioid, like, epidemic in the United States, and, like, but locally more. And Cal's dad is presenting it, and he's also the dean of Carleton College, and he has been, like, working on a similar project, like trying to keep an eye on the opioid crisis and make sure that it doesn't come to his school.
Yeah, so it's very problematic. This whole situation, if it gets out that they're all involved in this like opioid distribution, like they're selling it, it could be very detrimental to their friend group, to the parents. But I'm really worried about Ivy right now because literally Mateo can walk away. Cal can walk. I mean, Cal does have that affair going on, but it's nothing compared to being, thought of as a murderer. But I'm still sticking to my off the wall prediction. You know what? Every prediction I've ever made has been wrong. So, so, so don't count on that one being right, on this one being right either. But I still think that Coach killed Mahoney. I still think that Laura was there, and I think she's lying about not being there. One thing I was right about, and Ivy had the same thought, is basically that Laura she's crafty. She's an art teacher. She can Photoshop. So the whole bit of Cal saying, like, no, Laura wasn't there, Laura wasn't there. She sent me this picture of this ceramic bowl and she was at that class. And Ivy's like, dude, you can get stuff off of Google, right? She could have had that from a long time ago, right? And he's like so infatuated with this woman, and like she can do nothing wrong. So I'm just curious on if Cal's gonna end up coming out of that like puppy love phase and seeing her for who she really is, because regardless of if she was involved in this murder or not, being involved with a student is bad, but when you're a student you don't really see it that way. So I'm hoping that she gets some type of repercussion at the end of the day, because she's a horrible person as it is. But I have no idea what to think. Who is this man and this blonde-haired woman that injected Boney Mahoney?
My guess is it's Dominic or whoever that guy is. What is he? Who is he anyway? Like an artist or something that owns the, or not owns, but rents the studio that Laura works in?
Yeah, so basically he's Laura's friend and she borrows the studio from him. So I'm from what I gathered is it's his studio, like he rents that space and she just uses it.
Okay, makes sense. So Dominic and Laura are looking pretty guilty right now, even just by association because it's their space.
Right. But my question is, why would they be going there for the drugs? Is Laura hiding them for them? Is she getting a piece of the action? Is she getting a cut? Because why would they be going? That's the only reason why I would think Boney Mahoney is going to the studio, is to find the drugs, to go and pick up some more so that they can sell them. That would be the only reason, right?
I would think so. My prediction from last week was probably wrong because I had said that maybe Cal wasn't the only student that Laura was having an affair with. Maybe there was like Boney too, or like some others, like students too.
I mean, but anything can happen at this point. So I don't think you're completely wrong. I mean, there is actually a possibility that she could have been having an affair with him too. And out of that, he entrusted her with the drugs, or she loves him and is just like messing around with Cal, and they have like this whole like thing going on together. That could be why she's holding on to the drugs. But I still don't know who this male figure is. Only because when Laura's on the phone at the cafe, she's talking to Dominic, right? But to me in that section, I don't know if I read it wrong or if I'm just talking out of my butt. Didn't she say that he was off somewhere else? I don't think he's particularly in the area.
I don't remember anything about that. It probably just went over my head. It was like a pretty small detail that I probably just forgot.
I might go back and read that, but I'm pretty sure he's not in the area. So that's why I was leaning more towards Coach. I don't think he necessarily knows about. Okay, so my prediction is all over the place, right? I had said that Coach did it knowing about the affair and knowing about Laura, and Laura's the one that, fled the scene of the crime. I still think that he thought it was Cal. Or it could have been like he was in on the drug trade as well. Because there's a reason why Laura canceled. Because she knew that Mahoney was going to come and either pick up or talk to him or whatever. So I feel like she was protecting Cal, and then he just ended up getting caught in this anyways. So I don't know. My predictions are all over the place. I really don't know what's going to happen next. I'm really curious to see if we find out what happened within these next chapters. Where did he go? Why was he going there? Who was there? Why did he have to die? You know, because we still don't know where these drugs even came from. Yes, they found them. Okay. But they were hidden for a reason. Someone left them there thinking no one was ever going to find them. And then they did. And who would go to Charlie's house and ransack it like that? Do you think Charlie knows who it is?
Maybe not directly. My thought was that it's probably whoever that they stole the drugs from to start selling it in the first place.
Yeah, because when Charlie was on the phone thinking he was talking to Mahoney, when Cal answered it, he was basically saying like, "Oh, did you find him? Like, did you talk to him? Was he there? Who's he?" So I think he knows more than what he's saying, but he's so drunk, either he's going to keep his mouth shut or he's going to say something to them that's going to turn this whole thing around.
You know, it's kind of funny actually, because like, you know, during that whole scene with Ivy and Mateo in the bathroom, like, and Cal and Charlie were talking, and then once like the three of them regroup, and he's like, "Oh, by the way," like she's like all nonchalant about it, like Charlie was like super drunk. For a second, I thought that Cal was the one who got Charlie drunk, like to get him to talk or whatever, but no, he got himself drunk.
That would have been a good strategy.
Yeah, it would have.
But with Charlie, like they all know of him. Like he goes to school, obviously. Like when you go to school with people, like you know of them, you know, you hear things around school about them, but they don't directly know him. So he's just as much of a big question as anything else because we don't know much of him. They don't know much of him personally. So is he really that big part of the story? Because that day, the beginning of the day, Autumn got a text from Charlie. Charlie was in touch with Mahoney. Mahoney was going to the art studio for some reason. I hope we find this out. It's killing me.
This book is going to be the death of you.
It sure is, but I'll love it either way. So no predictions this week for you, huh?
Other than like the little ones I've kind of given so far, not really.
Yeah, me either. I have no idea what's going to happen. What are the questions you have going into the next section?
I feel like we kind of, or at least I kind of already asked mine mostly. I kind of wonder though too if Autumn's boyfriend Gabe is involved in like the drug scheme thing. Maybe that's who they were waiting to show up at the art studio.
I forgot about Skeevy Gabe.
And he wouldn't have been on the list because he's not in school anymore. Like, okay, they're involved in the drug thing. Well, Mateo indirectly because of Autumn. But why circle their names on the roster?
Exactly, because if she knows who it is, then why would she have to keep the roster and circle the names?
Unless it was for somebody else.
Ooh, like whoever Mahoney was going to meet?
Right.
I don't know. You might be onto something there. I'm excited. I love these kinds of books because I feel like I can't put it down. So it's killing me every week that we're reading section by section. I love doing this podcast. Don't get me wrong. It is definitely the highlight of my week, but I hate reading books so slowly, section by section, because this book's killing me. I need to know what happens.
Yeah, that's true. It sucks to have to stop reading when you're really into something. I haven't quite gotten to that point yet. Like where I was like, oh my God, I can't put this down. It's good, but it's not like so much of a page turner for me.
Maybe it's just because I need to, like, I have no patience. Like, I need answers right away. Like, I need to know what's happening. Thanks, everybody, for listening to this week's episode of Never Too Old for YA. Next week, we'll be discussing chapters 16 through 20. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Never2Old for YA. We love to hear what your thoughts are so far. No spoilers, please. We are streaming on Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Until next time, bye.